I gave myself 3 months to make a game with no laptop and zero experience, and here's how I did it. I absolutely love dystopian novels. They're my favorite genre, thanks to the behemoth that was Hunger Games. So the plan was to build a dress-up game with a dystopian feel and call it Dress to Comply. The game would have 4 districts that players would earn points to advance through. I started by making the art for the game. I thought that easier since I'd never programmed anything before, but was familiar with drawing on Procreate. I did the background art for all the districts first on the 10th of March, with the avatar and first clothing items on the 11th. I was done with 50 wardrobe items for District 1 by the 13th, which even I was impressed by, even though sleep was a social construct by then. Then the coding began. Having no laptop, I chose to do this on my iPad, and after a lot of researching the best browser-based environments for game development, I settled on Micro Studio. I at first thought I could do a full clean game with Scratch, but the internet thankfully bashed those ridiculous ideas. Having no experience meant needing major help, so I got a lot of help online to explain every step. Regardless, I managed to set up the background image, got the avatar to blink, added the first dress and got it to snap onto the avatar on the very first day of coding. So of course I was feeling like Muhammad Ali, until I tried to add a side-scrolling wardrobe the next day and failed spectacularly. I struggled with this problem for a full 4 days. I'm convinced the wardrobe was laughing at me. There is this main wardrobe with the 5 main items, and clicking one of them brings another horizontal bar with the actual items to dress up. I'd get the first one to work, then the second would crash. This happened back and forth and I was barely sleeping because I needed to feel like I had taken another step with the development, but I eventually got it to work. On the 20th of March, I worked on undressing the avatar, made avatars of different races, and a side-scrolling bar to hold them. I then set up coins and gems and the buttons to keep track of the rebellion and compliance points through which players advance. That week was probably my most productive. I worked on the logic for screen adaptability, adds button, coins and gems, and gifting them after certain achievements, game sounds, starting low, background music, and the district button. I had days when the electricity would go off for so many hours, which derailed my efforts a lot, but I still got a respectable amount of work done. Then everything went to hell. Things started great this next week, and I made so many great strides. I added a working way to advance or bribe to go to other districts, added a bar to track point progression, added a help section, refined the add button logic, added ministry propaganda to spice up the game. Then the wardrobe bars decided to make me regret biting off more than I can chew again, which is unfortunately my MO. It was a horrible hassle that I worked on for so long. I truly started to understand why game development takes years. After I finally resolved all that, I fixed a lot of bugs, and I mean a lot, and then tried to make ads playable. I'd been using a playholder timer to count down without showing anything to visualize the gameplay, but I needed to add in the real thing. Only Micro Studio has no ad logic, so I had to wrap my game in JavaScript using Android Studio. And you need to have a laptop to use the massive program that is Android Studio. Yeah. By this point, I was seriously considering pulling out my hair from frustration, and I've grown my hair for close to 10 years, so I'm really attached to it, but it had gotten to that. I looked this up and got the idea to do this with only Android Studio's command line tools and command prompt, which almost cost me my sanity. I tried to make it work over and over again, but there's always some file that I needed that I didn't know that I needed, and it was hard to get the clear list of all the tools I needed to use only the CLI. I'm sure all this was because I didn't know how to get the info online, since I didn't even know the entirety of what I needed. It was a nightmare. By this point, I was certain I'd never finish my first app ever because I needed a laptop, but I had to have money made from hustles like this game to buy that laptop. So yeah, the chicken and egg and all that. Then my sister randomly came home and brought her laptop. I've since built a shrine in her honor because that was one of the best things to happen to me this year. I did have to move her heaviest files to other disks to clear the local and make space for Android Studio because it was an 8GB RAM PC, but I was ready to get back to it in a few minutes. I struggled for weeks trying to use the command line tools, never knowing how easy the entire thing is in Android Studio. I literally had playable ads in my game 30 minutes after I got my sister's laptop. I wish I was kidding. On the 26th of April by this point, I uploaded to Play Console, got the required 12 testers, and I was good to start the 14-day testing, but one problem was still unsolved. I couldn't get the background music to pause when you leave the app. It kept playing without stopping, even after opening other apps on my mom's phone, which is my test device. I notified my testers to post their background music in app and told them I was still trying to solve that, so I'm sure it didn't bother anyone. After a lot of researching and posting pleas for help on Reddit, I finally got the app to background the music on leaving. It was so hard because this is not a clear function in Micro Studio, so I had to connect it to the JavaScript wrap. Apparently this is really easy to do in native apps, but it walloped me straight past my self-imposed June deadline, right into July. My app had passed testing though, so I applied for production in June while working on these remaining issues, since approval for that very first app takes a while. Approval for Dress to Comply production took 2 weeks, but I was out of money to buy data, so I had to wait for July to finish everything. The moment I got back online, I checked Play Console and found my app had been rejected. I hadn't known how to include the game icon I had drawn in the game files, so it came out with a default Android logo, which clashed with my Play Console store listing. My sister and her beautiful laptop were gone by this point, but I already had Gradle and other Android Studio elements injected into my game, so I would fix things in GitHub code spaces, build APKs in CodeMagic until I'd worked out all bugs, built a final AAB and resent it for review. Play Console treated it like an update, so it was approved in like 5 minutes. It's now 4 months after I started this project, and I am at the final phase, which is most definitely the hardest: marketing. I do not have a fancy marketing degree, so this will probably make me miss all the programming headaches I had. But I've been trying out this social media thing for the past 2 years, so I may not be completely green, I think. The game only currently has one district done. I thought to release what I had rather than wait for perfection, and I get to gather early feedback and improve right out the gate this way. I'm posting a few videos and shots to promote it, then we'll get down to doing the art for the remaining 3 districts. My hands will not thank me. The code logic for them is mostly done, so that won't be a problem. Wearing all the hats of a business is wonderfully exhausting. I'll do a 1 month or 2 month update about my earnings, so I hope this does well enough to get the word out. I have a dream that one day I will afford to turn all the app and game ideas floating in my head into reality. Please download and enjoy Dress to Comply. It's a definite 10 out of 10, and I'm not saying that just because I made it. Watch ads to advance through as much as you can though. My very broke pockets thank you.